Hi everybody, this is Liam Martin from Running Remote, and in today's video we're going to be talking about 6 reasons why the Great Resignation is going to become the Great Migration. Stay tuned. So I'm sure probably a lot of you guys have heard about the Great Resignation, but not many people of you really understanding the Great Migration, which I think is going to happen in the next 18 to 36 months, once actually everyone figures out that, hey, work is no longer a place and you can actually take it with you. This is the thesis of this particular video. I am also named Liam Martin, and I run this particular video and all of the other videos on this YouTube channel. I love to talk about remote work, and I had this on my chest, so I thought I would get it off my chest, communicate that to you right now. So what is the Great Resignation and what actually caused it? In the US, nearly 4 million workers quit their job in June of 2021. That still blows me away. That's near historic highs amid confidence they could find a better job elsewhere. And this is the reality of what we're currently facing right now, which is job mobility has never been easier. The ability to be able to move from one job to another is literally just a couple keystrokes on your computer. So a lot of people are saying, hey, I'm done with this stuff. I'm going somewhere else. It's a lot easier to be able to work for Corporation B because they have extra tacos for, I don't know, lunch. Maybe they mail them to you or something like that because everyone's working remotely. And this is a core problem that I think not many people are really recognizing coming down the line, which is once COVID is over and the pandemic is, long gone, and we're talking a year and a half, maybe 2 years from now, going into like 2023 and 2024, you're going to recognize that this labor transition is not just going to be in a particular country, but it's actually going to be within countries, right? A lot of people are going to be able to want to go other places. For this trend of the Great Resignation turning into the Great Migration is digital nomads are being minted at an exponential rate. So before the pandemic, and for those of you that don't know, a digital nomad is someone that works from their computer literally anywhere on planet Earth. So they travel around. They might travel like a fast nomad where they might spend a couple weeks at a particular location, or a slow nomad like generally me that spends a couple months at a particular location, and then also someone who has a home base located in a particular location. Like me, I live most of my life in Montreal, Canada, even though it is really effing cold right now. I'm still here, and most of the winters I'm usually in another location like Mexico or Bali or Spain or Portugal or somewhere else. The rates of those digital nomads have been exponentially increasing. Before the pandemic, there were about 5 million digital nomads from what they understood when we look at the different studies that were done. Right now, the projections are that there are 50 million nomads that currently exist around planet Earth. Now, you need obviously a Western passport to be able to get into all of these countries without necessarily just getting a visa on arrival as opposed to making a visa application, all this kind of stuff. So there's various barriers towards this number expanding out to billions of people. But I would project probably in the next couple years, 500 million nomads existing, simply because they're recognizing that remote work is no longer something that was like 3 to 4% of the US population. It's now effectively 40% of the US workforce is working remotely. So they're no longer going to actually say, why should I work remotely in the United States when I could go work remotely somewhere else? So I think that number is going to significantly increase over the next couple of years. Reason number 2, most G20 countries are not a good place to get what I call lifestyle ROI. So when you go to New York, San Francisco, Toronto, London, these are cities that are incredibly expensive, and they're not really cities where you would get that good of a return on investment unless you actually also work there. So a lot of people exist inside of those cities simply because they say to themselves, well, I have to live in New York because I work in New York. But if you no longer have to live in New York because yes, your job may still technically be located in New York, but you can do it anywhere on planet Earth, then why the heck would you stay in New York? I think this is only going to proliferate and continue as we move through the next couple years, but it'll be very interesting to see whether or not a lot of those cities kind of turn into, I have this concept which is basically fun cities. So like cities that no longer have to serve the interests of labor, I think will turn into cities in which they're just entertainment cities. Las Vegas could be an example of that, but I think it's a really bad example of that. I think Boulder, Colorado is a perfect example of that, where it's just like, I have a great lifestyle, I go skiing, I go sailing, I do all this kind of cool stuff. Vancouver's another perfect example of that. There are these entertainment cities that I think are actually going to be the new kind of normal moving forward. Reason number 3 is being in a certain place is no longer important to get an amazing job. Bill Gates says the majority of work will be done in the metaverse by 2026. And if that's true, what implications will this have on migrating labor? Not really many people know, but to be completely honest with you, for me, I think we're going to see a huge move of a lot of the countries or cities that wouldn't have otherwise really had access to fantastic job opportunities. That's only going to get easier and easier as these cities move through time and remote work becomes more proliferated throughout the rest of the world. So it's going to be very interesting to see where that goes. Reason number 4, in reality, getting a good job is better remote than it is on premise. There's data to be able to show if you make more than $100,000 a year, you're 4 times more likely to be able to work remotely versus on-premise, meaning inside of an office. And according to a labor market data company, ESME, the monthly average of remote job postings have grown by 60% since 2019. So we're seeing a huge proliferation of really high-end jobs that you don't have to be in a high-end city in order to get. This is definitely going to help the Great Migration. Reason number 5, once companies recognize how to operate distributed, the bottom-up push will be insane. Lots of workers, honestly, are gonna come from countries that didn't have as good job opportunities coming up to compete with Western workers. So there are more PhD candidates being minted every single year in India than there are university students in the United States. The labor is going to absolutely even itself out globally. I think actually within the next 10 years, you're probably going to have a global price for a computer engineer, as an example. There's no longer going to be a price in San Francisco that's going to be 4 to 5 times the price of everywhere else. And honestly, that was just an effect of San Francisco really having access to talent opportunities and then pulling in those talent opportunities to San Francisco. So before they were distributed, and now San Francisco really acts as a acts as a beacon to be able to pull that talent in. That process is going to undo itself, and then that talent is just going to be located everywhere. And the most important place to be able to find that talent is going to be remote. Reason number 6 is lots of places where there are great jobs honestly have crappy weather. Again, I said at the beginning of this video, I live in Canada. Right now, it is minus 25 degrees Celsius. I think that's minus 15 degrees Fahrenheit, and it gets really cold. It gets like minus 35 degrees Fahrenheit sometimes here in Canada. It is not really fun, and honestly, if it wasn't COVID right now, I would be out and about in one of those really warm locations that I usually go to when I am able to do so because I have a remote first job. So I think that's gonna be really easy for a lot of other people to make that same decision. And once you get infrastructure of like schooling in place and really easy transition towards co-working spaces, that kind of stuff, it's only gonna accelerate this process even further. So what do you think? Comment down below, and the first 5 comments are in for a free ticket to the Running Remote conference. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Do you think I'm an idiot? How's my hair today? All of those comments are welcome down below. And while you're down there, why don't you subscribe to this YouTube channel and like this video? It is indeed free, and we talk about this stuff all day long. See you next video.